Welcome to the Clique podcast. I'm Dani Watson, a mindset and manifestation expert and founder of the Clique, a company that helps women overcome their fears and limiting beliefs to create a life and business that they love. Within this podcast, I will help you get clear on what you want, identify the blocks that are holding you back, transform your mindset and raise your vibration so that you can co-create magic with the universe. If you are looking to design a life that truly sets your soul on fire and manifest more success and abundance, then you are in the right place. Good morning, ladies. Welcome to a brand new episode. This episode is for anybody who is perhaps a little bit confused about what it is they really want. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed with what you actually want, or maybe you just have no idea what it is you truly desire. During this episode, I want to give you some guidance on how we can manifest the life of our desires, even from that place of lacking clarity, even when we don't necessarily fully know what our desires or our path really is. Now, this was something that really confused me a lot when I first discovered the law of attraction, because one of the first basic rules of the law of attraction is asking for what you want, telling the universe what it is that you actually want. And I didn't know. I felt so lost and confused as to what I actually wanted. I didn't know what my options were. I didn't know in terms of my career. I didn't really know in terms of my lifestyle. What I thought I initially wanted, I knew I was just going along with what I felt like I should do. I knew I wasn't being true to myself. Climbing that corporate career ladder, playing it safe. I knew that really wasn't aligned with me. But when I started to say, well, what do you really want? My view so far had been so limited that I just did not know how to think any bigger. And it's funny because sometimes now I assume, well, everybody knows this. Everybody knows, what they want. And I actually have to take myself back to those early days and remind myself that I certainly didn't. And there are still many people that don't. So if this is you right now, maybe at one point you thought you knew, or maybe you've started along a path and actually what you now want has changed and it doesn't align with you anymore. This episode is for you. Now, I want to start off by inviting you to just be really mindful of your thoughts and your words at this point. The reason I say this was because I spent so long telling myself and telling everybody, I just don't know what I want. That was what I was thinking continuously. I have no idea what I want to do with my life. I don't know what kind of lifestyle I want. I don't know what kind of career I want. And I just felt like I was agonizing over this same issue of not knowing. And of course, we know from the law of attraction, what you focus on expands. So I was basically feeding into my lack of clarity simply by focusing on it. I was constantly reminding myself of what I didn't know. And therefore, I was just continuing to feel more confused and more overwhelmed. Are you guilty of this? Are you constantly telling yourself, I do not know? It's funny because sometimes we almost say we don't know on autopilot. We default into that place of overwhelm or, unclearness as almost like an autopilot response. When actually, we perhaps do know a little bit. We're almost using this blanket statement of, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about what it is that I want. But actually, if we dig a little deeper, there's something that we do know. There is some clues as to what we do want from our desires. And that's what we want to start paying attention to. Because if you keep focusing on the clarity you lack, you're just going to create more confusion. So focus on what you do know. When it comes to thinking about your future, what you would like to call into your life, what is it that you are aware of currently? Now, for me, I didn't necessarily know when I had this I was at this place of lack of clarity. I didn't necessarily know the physical things I wanted to call in. I didn't really know at this point what kind of job or career I wanted. I wasn't really sure of, exactly the kind of relationship I wanted to bring in. I didn't know where I wanted to be living. I didn't really know exactly what my day-to-day lifestyle I wanted it to look like. I had some ideas, but on the whole, I didn't really know. However, one thing that I did really know was how I wanted to feel. I knew exactly what I didn't want to feel, and therefore I could take away from that what I did want to feel. And here's the thing, the clarity or the lack thereof, that confusion often gives you clues, because if you are clear on what you don't want, then equally you can be clear on what you do want. So for me, one thing was abundantly clear. I didn't like that feeling of being restricted in my time, restricted in, where I worked, when I worked, what I was working on. I really didn't like the restriction that working for a boss gave me. I didn't want to be told anymore what to do. I wanted to forge my own path. That feeling of freedom for me, that's what it really was, a feeling of freedom, even if I didn't necessarily know what that freedom looked like. So that was one thing I started to focus on. Okay, I want to feel free. I wanted to just feel lighter. Again, I didn't necessarily know what would bring me that feeling of lightness, but I just wanted to feel as if I could go about my day feeling lighter, like free from that pressure, free from that stress, just more joyful, life to just feel easier, more flowy. These were the things I started to tune into. So when you think about your desires, how do you want to feel? Start focusing on those things. Because most of the time we have a good understanding of what we do want to feel. Mostly because we've probably experienced, or maybe are currently experiencing, what we don't want to feel. And so those times when we feel the things that we don't want to feel, see them as a blessing. Because in that place of getting what you don't want, you're able to get clearer on what you do want. And then as you move through life, you can almost kind of use contrast as a way to serve you. Whenever you are met with something that you don't want or you don't like, see that as a sign of you being able to get closer to what you do want. It's helping you basically filter out through life, filter the things that don't really align with you, don't really sit well with you, you don't like the sound of. You can get rid of those. And by doing so, you're getting much clearer on what you do want. And you want to see every single day as an opportunity to do this. So rather than being stuck for weeks or months on end, saying to yourself, I don't know what I want, start using the phrase, every single day I'm getting clearer on what I do want, because I am being shown things that I don't want on a daily basis. I'm getting that clarity from being shown the things that aren't aligned with me. I can say, I do not want that anymore. That's not for me. That's not aligned with me. And although I may not have the specifics about what I do want, I am certainly getting clearer. Every single day, I am getting clearer and clearer and clearer on the life I want to live, the woman I want to become, the career I want to manifest. Every single day brings more clarity. Because remember, when you focus your thoughts and your words on, I'm getting clearer, the path ahead will become clearer. Now, the next thing is just to be open to the signs that the universe is sending you. The universe is constantly going to be sending you little nudges. So you have to just be paying attention and see just what starts to show up in your life naturally without you sort of trying to push or force for anything. Just see what opportunities arise, what presents themselves. What are you finding yourself gravitating towards when you're reading books or when you're, listening to podcasts or, you're just living your life. Kind of what are the subtle signs that are showing up for you? And maybe not every single thing that's sent your way is necessarily aligned for you. It might be you see something and think, okay, well, maybe that's an idea for me, or maybe that's something that I want. And you maybe sit with it for a while and think, no, you know what, this isn't for me. But the first thing is just being open to receiving those signs in the first place. Remember, this is co-creation. You don't have to figure all of this out yourself. Of course, the universe wants you to know, what it is that you want, but if this is something you're struggling with, we can actually manifest clarity. Sometimes we just think of manifestation as manifesting a physical thing, but we can manifest something such as clarity. So actually asking the universe, if you've no idea what you want to begin with, maybe the first step is just asking the universe for that clarity and then seeing what kind of signs the universe sends your way. Getting specific on, universe, show me the way. Give me clarity on what my path is. Help me understand what I am meant to be doing with this life, who I'm meant to be, what I'm meant to have. Ask for the clarity that you seek. Be also willing to get it wrong. Sometimes when we overanalyze things, let's say, for example, you have a sign about, okay, this is something that maybe you could possibly want, and you get sort of this little subtle nudge or sign from the universe. Let's say it's, somebody's sent you a link to becoming a coach, okay? Maybe you stumbled across this podcast or our free Become a Coach course, and you've started to think, oh, well, you know what, maybe this is my path. And rather than just kind of going with it and saying, okay, this is a sign, I'm just going to see what happens here, you start to overthink things, overcomplicate things. You get caught up in your head. And normally when we get caught up in our heads, we get stuck in fear mode. And when we make choices from that place of fear, we are not making choices from our highest self. And often we don't necessarily make the right choice for us because we are limiting ourselves by fear. So rather than getting caught up in the logical brain, the internal chitter-chatter, can you just lean into that path, trust your gut, and just see where it takes you? It's okay if that ends up being a wrong decision for you. We can make decisions all the time about our path, and our path can change. It doesn't have to be set in stone. But I found from my experience, when I've just trusted myself, trusted my gut, led from the heart and just gone with things that are presented to me without listening too much to that logical brain, 9 times out of 10, I have been right. The times when I've been most wrong about the choices I've made is when I've lent into fear too much. I've held myself back, or I've really kind of acted from that place of, I'm so worried about this, therefore I've not really fully gone all in on a decision. There are the times when I've often felt like I have regrets at the end, when I've listened to my fear too much. So be open to these signs and allow yourself to just lean into them, seeing where they will take you, knowing that you can pivot at any stage. Your path is constantly evolving. You are constantly evolving, and your desires will be constantly evolving as well. So let's say, for example, you think, taking the example that I just gave with that becoming a coach, let's say that's you and you're at that sort of point of wanting to do something differently. And somebody sends you a link to this podcast or the free course, and you think, well, this is a sign. And you start taking the free course and you think, you know what, actually, this isn't aligned with me. Or, this isn't my path. At that point, you have an opportunity to pivot, okay? Nothing, as I said, is set in stone, but you have to be open and willing to try things, especially when the universe is giving you a very, very clear signal of this is something that you're meant to do. And what I find is the more times you see the same kinds of signs popping up, that's a bigger indication that this is the path that you are meant for. I remember when I first sort of discovered the coaching world, and I had never really come across coaching before. I kind of heard about coaching, but I always thought of coaching was either like psychotherapy, or I thought of a coach as like a football coach or a sports coach. I never really appreciated what coaching really was. And it was almost as if the moment that I started to contemplate, this could be the path for me, it felt like I was seeing it everywhere. I was seeing the signs everywhere. I was seeing, coaches pop up on social media. I was getting, recommended posts that were directing me to coaching. I was seeing books about coaching, about personal development, law of attraction. It felt like it was all around me. And that, for me, is a very, very good sign that the path that you're being shown is the right one for you. Now, we need to remember that our desires are ever evolving, as I said. So, there's going to get to a point where perhaps the original desires and dreams that you had no longer serve you anymore. And that might, when you get to that point, you might find that you're met with a place of confusion. You're feeling a bit lost as to, well, what's next for me? What do I want now? If this doesn't sit well with me anymore, what is my path, moving forwards? And you can go through this same process again. Okay, so this process for getting clearer on what you want, it's not just used at the beginning of your manifestation journey. I find every time I up level, I'm often met with this place of a bit of confusion, a bit of overwhelm. Okay, what's next for me in this journey? And I have to almost just surrender myself to this process. Start to think about, okay, well, what is the language that I'm using here? I don't want to keep repeating the narrative of, I don't know what I want. I don't know what's next. I don't know what my next level is. I need to speak as if I already have the clarity that I seek. I then focus on what I do know. How do I want to feel? If I'm going to up level and take myself to that next stage, how do I want to feel going through that process and also when I get there? What are the signs that the universe is sending me right now? Can I be open to them? Can I lean into these things from the heart rather than listening to my fear? Now, one final thing that I feel is super beneficial is to just take the pressure off of figuring it all out straight away. Often we kind of see our desires and what we want as this decision that we need to make right now, and we have to have the full picture right now, and we have to have absolute clarity on what we want before we can start moving forwards. You will find that as you start taking steps forwards towards what you do know, the path will become clearer. And often when we just release that pressure to figure it all out overnight, it becomes easier to connect with our desires. Pressure, stress, when we kind of put that upon ourselves, we cannot expand into our desires fully. We can't see our desires fully. It cuts off our creativity. It's almost like when you have writer's block, forcing yourself to sit down and, write the first page of your best-selling book. When you put that kind of pressure on yourself, often we don't write anything. It's the same with your desires. Okay, so if you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to just have complete clarity right now, release that pressure a little bit. Allow the clarity to be something that builds up over time. Okay? And you will probably find if you do that, you could wake up tomorrow and have a full clear picture of the life ahead of you. As soon as you release that pressure, often the clarity comes. Now, before we wrap this up, I am actually going to be hosting a live training this week all about building a business from the feminine energy. So if you are wanting to join me on that and you would like a link to the live stream, if you just come over to Instagram, make sure you're following me on Instagram at Dani_Watson_coaching, and just send me a DM and I will send you the invite link for you to join me in that training. Okay, and I'll send you all of the details, the time and dates. Yeah, pop on over to Instagram, Dani_Watson_coaching. Drop me a little DM. Let me know that you would like the link. And either myself or one of the team will respond to you and make sure that you've got the link to join that training. How to build a business, leading with your feminine energy. I'm so excited to share this with you guys. So have a wonderful, wonderful week, ladies, and I will catch you on the next episode. If you are wanting to build your own successful online coaching business, make sure to check out Freedom, Abundance and Impact, our free 10-day business and mindset course for coaches and aspiring coaches. To access, simply head to wearetheclique.com and click free course in the menu.